गुड इवनिंग स्टूडेंट्स। आज हम लोग बात करेंगे हाउ टू प्रिपेयर सिनोप्सिस। आप सब जानते हैं कि जो सिनोप्सिस इज ए मैंडेटरी टू बी प्रेजेंटेड बिफोर द स्टार्टिंग ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट। In Agribusiness Management course, you all know that project work is the mandatory program, and before the project work, you have to prepare the synopsis. So we should know that synopsis. What do you understand by the synopsis? As definitions, it is the gist of the planned project submitted to the competent authority for final approval. Here is the competent authority. You all know that is the Director of Research and Dean PG Studies of the university. We have to prepare our synopsis, and according to the clarity of synopsis, you will go for the data collections, report writing, and further publications. So it is highly essential to know about how to prepare a perfect synopsis in our master degree program. You all know that in my previous video, I have highlighted that stepwise how you process for getting a problem formulations. Means suppose you are plan a work in your project work, or how you can identify a problem statement. It is a stepwise procedure. Stepwise procedure means either you choose the agriculture sector or allied sectors. From the agriculture sectors, you will choose the food grain, vegetables, oilseed. In allied sectors, you have to choose dairy, small dominant, poultry. Again, when you have identified the sector, then you have to identify whether you have to interest on the marketing, whether you have the interest on the production, HR, and finance. Again, you have to identify what are the major impactable area of Government of India or Government of Gujarat. Accordingly, you have to choose either the contract farming, farmers producer organization, ENAM. You all have to identify according to your resource constraint or according to your objectivity or objective clarification. If you are very clear and you understand that this will be my problem statement for my project work, then next step comes. Next step comes means how you prepare your slides in synopsis presentation. You all know that every slides has been starting in the heading of introduction. But the thing is that what you should write in the introduction chapter, or what you have to write in the introduction slides. So I have written that any topic must be streamlined to international, national, regional, state and district. Suppose you are doing a research on production and marketing of potato in Gujarat, then definitely you have to highlight that production scenario of international, production scenario in national in Gujarat. Similarly, in the marketing scenario of international, marketing scenario in national and subsequently Gujarat. If you are doing the research on Banaskantha district, then you have to subsequently highlight about the district as well. Again, second point is that bifurcate topic with different keywords. Suppose your research is fish marketing in Gujarat, then definitely you have to highlight about the fish. In fish, it may be come from the inland sources or the marine sources, and how Gujarat is the important area of study in connection to the fish. You all know that Gujarat is the third ranker in the fish production and the first ranker in the marine fish production. All things you have to highlight in your introduction slide. Government policy parameter like incentives, support schemes, subsidies, all things need to be connected in your introduction chapter. Suppose you all know that in the potato based study, one of the important scheme has been highlighted, that the top varieties, or you can say that Operation Green, tomato, onion and potato has been included in the Operation Green scheme of the Government of India, you have to highlight all these things in the introduction. Introduction chapter means you have to introduce your subject for the readers or any type of the stakeholders. Your stakeholders may be your farmer, your stakeholders may be the junior students, your stakeholders may be the government as well. So you have to introduce your subject. To give more clarity, or you can say that to give more catchy of your introduction chapter, I have seen in different forum that people are like to add news clippings, short stories, case, videos, quotations, novel clippings in your introduction chapter. If you do that, it gives both artistic and the scientific flavor of the introduction chapter. That is more important nowadays. Nowadays, basic science connected with agriculture. You all know that we are the era where we are doing the hybrid model of demand forecasting. In the hybrid model, you know that we directly collect the data from the farmer sources, and from using of the ISRO, we are getting the data from the different type of the satellites who are doing the ISRO activity. They may be the physics man of physics. If you go for the soil health card, you know that these are the physics guys. They are helping the agriculture scenarios, agriculture fraternities. These things need to be connected in introductions. One single statement I like to highlight, that your introduction chapter should highlight the scope of the study. How many stakeholders are connected in your work? That gives an extra advantage or extra edge in your introduction chapter. Then next chapter, you all know that it is the favorite of the students, that is the review of literature. Why you are doing the review of literature? Because review of literature helps us to identify the objectives, because problem statements are little bit of the broader one. So we can't progress our research work only on the basis of the problem statement. So we have to identify that what should be the bifurcation of the problem statement in different type of the objective. So review of literature helps us to identify the objectives, helps us to identify the research hypothesis, to help us to identify the variables as well. So importance of the review of literature, I don't like to highlight more, because it is already very transparent. It is very comfortable from your side that review of literatures, why it is so important. It must be written chronologically. Doesn't mean that whether it will be ascending order or the descending order, it depends on the researcher, but it should be in the chronological order. From the review, already highlighted that we derive research hypothesis. Research hypothesis means it is a very affirmative statement. Suppose you are doing the research on contract farming in potato, just one single statement that comes from the review of literature, that contract farming gives more income in comparison to the non-contract farming. It is an affirmative statement. How you know that? It is coming from the review of literatures. It is called the research hypothesis. From the research hypothesis, you will go for the statistical hypothesis. You have to test that whether the what you have highlighted in the form of the research hypothesis, whether it is correct or not correct. Then automatically you have to write that null hypothesis, alternative hypothesis. You have to going for the test. Then you have to conclude your statement. I have seen that in the project work or any type of the publications, now a trend is that 70% of the reviews must be recent in origin. I have already highlighted in my previous video that where and in how you can get the reviews from different type of the sources. If you don't go through that, please go through that, which are the sources from where you have get the reviews. Reviews must include the conclusion part. Numbers of times you see that in the online you will only find the abstract. So how you can write the review? Just pick their concluding remarks of the particular research paper and write in your review papers or in the review of literatures. It was observed from my experience that policy paper described in present tense and other papers were elaborated in past tense and present perfect tense. It is a pattern of writing the reviews, because numbers of I also confused in my days. Then I know that it is numbers of papers write the policy paper in the present tense and other things in the past tense or the present perfect tense. In report writing, it comes after objective, whereas in presentation, it is better to highlight the review of literature before the objective. Why it will be highlighted before the objective? You all know that from the review of literature we will find the objective. So better you have to highlight review of literatures in the presentation, then after that you have to highlight the objective. Gap in research work. Everyone say that why you are doing this type of the research. Your writing pattern should be like that. Very few studies till date, till 2023 has done work in the area of my research work. There are many changes happen because we are the agribusiness management students. Every time we are facing the cost and price always be changing. So we need to be validated the previous works. So you should do that new type of the research. Or numbers of times what is your specialty in your research work. Suppose one research already done in the Odisha. Now you are thinking that to replicate the research in the Gujarat itself. Your research, suppose you are doing the research in the Gherkin is produced more in the Karnataka. According to the area, your research has some significance. Nagpur is known for the orange. You are doing the research in Nagpur in the commodity just like the orange, then definitely it is fill up the gap of the research that you should write something by which the stakeholders will connect that your work is innovative and the creative one. Then questions comes the research questions. Dear students, one important thing in between the hypothesis and the research question is that hypothesis has been tested, whereas research questions need to be highlighted but need not to be tested. Research question must be connected to your objective or to your problem statements. Suppose you are writing a research question, then definitely it should connect to your objective. In research question, hypothesis must be statistically tested. Already I have highlighted all these things. You should go through. Most important thing, how you write the objectives. Numbers of patterns I have observed in these days. Students are facing difficulties to frame their objective, because if you properly frame your objective, then subsequently it will help you to go for analysis or statistical analysis. Questions arises which things you are really worried to include in the objective. Then answer is what things you are going to test it. We always tested the variables, not the constant. Suppose in the first objective I have highlighted to study the awareness level of ABC policy in HDFC Bank of Anand. Anand means it is a constant. HDFC Bank means again it is a constant. ABC policy, it is a constant irrespective of the respondent. Everyone give the same answer because your area of study is Anand, your bank is HDFC, your ABC policy is also constant. What is the thing that will vary in response? That is the awareness level. Awareness level of someone is different from me and it is also different from the other persons. So how many variables are there in the particular statement? Only one variable, that is the awareness level. If there is only one variable, which type of the test need to be tested? It is the descriptive test, just like the mean, median, mode, or you can say that the central tendency. You go for the dispersion, you go for the skewness and kurtosis. Then ultimately how you have measure your variables. Suppose you measure the variables in the form of the scale or you are measured the variables in this form of the yes and no, then accordingly your further statistical analysis may be decided. Second objective pattern I have observed that to compare the awareness level of ABC policy in HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank in Anand. Two words in English, if they have been used in objective, then definitely there should be two variables. One is compare, second is relation. Here it has been written that to compare, it means there should be two variables. One is awareness level, second is two banks are there, HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank. Though there are two variables, one is bank and second is awareness level, then according to the two variables, what are the tests you go for? You go for the hypothesis testing, t-test, ANOVA, these, and accordingly you go for the higher version of the relations. You go for the correlation, you go for the regression. Third one is to study the awareness level of ABC policy in HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank. It is just one word has been changed. In second point I have highlighted to compare, now I have highlighted to study. It means you may say that there are two variables, one is awareness level and second is the bank. But here is that you may go further. Can I write the statement to study the awareness level of ABC policy in HDFC Bank in Anand, to study the awareness level of the ABC policy in ICICI Bank in Anand? I also do that. Just adding the words doesn't mean that your variables will be increased. You need to identify the variables. According to the variables, you go for the analysis. Fourth point is that to check the impact of awareness level on people. Numbers of times as a researcher we are doing a very wrong thing, that impact is very fancy words. If you are doing the impact analysis, impact on what? Impact of awareness level on people, what? People motivation, people satisfaction. Impact words means there should be two variables, but in the fourth point there is only one variable, that is the awareness level. So this is a wrongly framed objective. You just add to check the impact of awareness level on people motivation. Then motivation comes, then there will be two variables, then go for the writing the objective and further analysis. To study the concept of employee engagement. Dear students, it is a very wrongly presented form of writing the objective. To study something, it means it is a research. Then why you are adding in the objective? You may add something in the introduction chapter, you may go for the review literature, but to study something, it should not be added in the objective. To give suggestions and recommendations. Numbers of time I found that in the last objective, it is a very common way of writing the objective in the research fraternity, that we always write to give suggestions and recommendation in the objective. But if you don't write it, should not you write or do give suggestions and recommendation? You should do that. Then why you write in the objective? Then question arises, hypothesis. How many numbers of hypotheses I have to be included in my research work? Hypothesis should be less than or equal to your objective. All hypotheses should have some connection with your objective. That things you need to do that. Next is materials and methods. Materials and method means how you approach towards your respondent. You started from the research and design. You all know that research and design is exploratory research, descriptive research, causal research. When you are very clear about that which type of the research design you are doing, then you go for the sample design. Sample design has been started whether I will go for the universal population or go for the finite population or the infinite population. Then I should identify what should be the sample unit, who will give the response on the behalf of whom. Then you go for the sample frame, because sample frame is very important if you're doing the probability sampling. Then the types of sampling, non-probability and probability sampling. Then ultimately you should know the sample size. Numbers of times you know that one of the research 200 is very common. 100 sample size, 200 sample size. Then you have to be very clear about that how many sample size should be there in your research. Sample size mainly depends on the resource constraint, time constraint, methods of statistical analysis. You all know that in the factor analysis, KMO is the indicator of the sample size. According to the scientist Green, that is the 50 plus 8K. K means independent variable to decide how many samples should be there for the regression. Numbers of times statistical analysis, or what type of the statistical analysis you should do, that also depends on the sample size. Then you go for the methods of data collections, whether it's observations, questionnaire, schedule, interview methods, then go for the data analysis. All things need to be highlighted in your methods and method. Then in the end, you have to highlight that what should be my tentative output or outcome, or any concluding remark after your presentation. Output may be your reports, publications, article, research papers. Means if you do research, these things will come at the end of your project work. Any output has some socio-economic impact. It is called as the outcome. Your research may be some innovative or path breaking. You need to be highlighted. Any new idea generated from your work, there may be the chances there you will, after collection of your data, there will be your documentary will be developed. Relevance of your work for policymaker and society. These things in the last part of your synopsis, you have to highlight that. So if you understand how to prepare the synopsis, you will find that it is a very systematic procedure. It is very difficult for me to elaborate every point in a single video. I will come with numbers of videos in the line of research. Stay tuned with me, and if any issues will come, please write in the chat box. I will definitely solve your issues as far as possible.